Many architects avoid basic shapes because they don't want to be overly simple. But simple shapes don't necessarily mean simple ideas.
What is shape? What is shape? Shape is intensive. It is the outdated idea that volume outstrips surface area because an object increases in size. This is no longer valid because of negative space, which allows even simple shapes to create wildly diverse volumes and spaces. Shape is cool. Shape can exist alone or in a group, showing its versatility.
Shape is illicit. Simple shapes have a more rebellious feel. Their unconventional ideas make them more appealing. Shape is projective. Simple shapes come from a long history. It's not a new idea that we're bringing into the world, but one that we can use in new ways.
Shape is graphic. Complex shapes are not needed in architecture, since simple shapes are already able to speak by themselves. Shape is crude and explicit. It does not need an explanation. Shape is arbitrary. Shape never appears as a definite object itself, but at most is a residual for other objects.
Shape is expendable, forgettable. Architects avoid them at all costs. Modern architecture seeks complexity. Maybe it's unique, but is it memorable? Hardly. There's no form, it's hard to grasp. Shapes are buoyant. When you look at a building, the shapes pop out, they float. They suggest objects of smaller scale. Architects are self-conscious, so they fear this belittling of their work, so to speak.
Shape is adaptable. Shapes are able to adjust readily to different conditions. Sommel says that form is essential whereas shape adapts. Shape is empty. This is not meant in the sense that shape is meaningless or nothing, more that it is hardly discussed and used. Sommel claims that shape is a relatively neglected territory within architecture.
Shape is easy and fit. It can represent some ideas of minimalism. It's something back to the basics and more about function. Getting back to shape doesn't mean not being good looking. It's about reducing the unnecessary and complicated things. Cut everything which may bother the main body. Shape itself is beautiful enough. We can even use them easily without any decoration. Take the drawings of Hugh Ferris, which illustrate the impact of the 1916 New York City zoning code as an example. The power of his diagrams derives from the simple sculptural mass and mentality.
According to the article 12 Reasons to Get Back in Shape, form is essential to the building process.
There are many different views on what the basis of form actually is. Viollet-le-Duc believes that materials and structures are the basis of form. Walter Gropius contends it is the techniques of mass production, and Aldo Rossi argues that it is structural and spatial typology.
Form is such a rigid part of the design process that it becomes a limiting factor, while shape is an extremely versatile part of the process, giving the designer more options.
So why did you like Frank Gehry's buildings?
Well, there's several buildings like Disney Hall or the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao that are highly appreciated by the architectural community because of their unique forms. However, when it comes down to it, they don't really display any sort of overall form. They're just random shapes placed together to draw attention. And as a result, it's hard to kind of comprehend the space that would be inside these buildings.
Form is an overall part of the building process, and it's made up of smaller parts, such as shapes. Shape is used in many different aspects of the building process, which allows it to be much more versatile and useful to the designer. Shape is superior to the all-encompassing idea of form because it can create form or stand alone. Every building uses some kind of shape, whether in the plan or on the exterior. This shows how important shape is in architecture.
So, if shape, as you say, can create form, then what is the dividing line between a shape and a form?
Shape is kind of the building blocks to form. It's like the smaller pieces that can make it up, and then form is kind of like almost the finished product. type thing, or like the whole idea behind the building process, and like the whole end piece.
So what would be the point at which simple shapes become too complicated?
Once they stop becoming functional, to me, is when it starts getting into like the area where it's starting to be too complex. Like with the Korean Presbyterian Church. Yeah, it's nice and it creates a nice aesthetic appeal, but there's no real point to it, and I feel like if you're just making complex shapes just for fun, then you should use those shapes in a better way that's both functional and pleasing, like aesthetically pleasing.